In my last life I was a naive person. I was deceived by my scheming roommate to go to a remote mountain area to be his cheap sister-in-law. His brother took advantage of me after drinking. After I became pregnant, I was forced to drop out of school to marry him. After marriage he was lazy and violent. Many years later my roommate brought her tall, rich and handsome boyfriend and mocked me to my face for being old and ugly. I got up in the morning with a dizzy head. The winter in the rural south is cold and damp. The cold penetrates every blood vessel and makes people unable to warm up. Lu Xinxin, I have never seen a wife lazier than you. The firewood is gone. I didn't even know where to pick them up. The stairs were thumping with footsteps. Cui Ru's overly mean face appeared in front of me soon. She pulled my clothes and yelled at me to quickly collect firewood to make a fire and cook. Since I got married to Mengzhou, if I did something that didn't meet their wishes, I would be scolded or beaten like a cow or a horse. Mengzhou was leaning against the head of the bed, playing games on his phone. He took the time to glance at me and urged me to hurry up. I had no choice but to carry the backpack and climb up the mountain step by step. It had rained, the mossy road was slippery, and I felt very uncomfortable. I accidentally fell down the mountain. The wind blew past my ears, and my drowsy mind was instantly clear. I was not afraid at all. My daughter felt relieved. Many scenes flashed through my mind. Meng's was beating and scolding, Cui Ru's harshness, Meng Jiao's ridicule, all like passing clouds, all forgotten, and finally fixed on the faces of my poor daughter and parents. Regret welled up in my heart. I owed them too much. This life is really short. Wrong step after wrong step. The cold wind fades away, warmth embraces wake you up. A voice rang in my ears and I opened my eyes suddenly, meeting Meng Jiao's pair of dark eyes. People were coming and going around me. I was in a waiting room back to the day I went to Meng Jiao's house. He saw that I was in a daze and pulled me to the ticket gate. I reacted and shook off his hand. I had something to do and I would not go to your house. After that I ignored Meng Jiao's reaction and just kept walking forward with my head down, faster and faster, until I walked out of the station. I dared to stop and take a breath. The sun was shining brightly outside. I had gained a new life. I got on the bus back to school and slowly I remembered my previous life. The last time I saw Meng Jiao, he was glamorous and had found a good job after graduating from college. I heard that he had a rich boyfriend. He covered his mouth in surprise when he saw me, and the newly done red manicure on his hand stung my eyes. Xinxin, why does your skin look so bad? You look like an old lady now and I get annoyed when I see you. Mengzhou directly showed disgust in front of me. I couldn't even raise my head. I made an excuse to go to the bathroom, and saw my haggard self in the mirror, wearing a bloated cotton coat, with calluses all over my hands, a sallow face and sunken eye sockets. I was only in my 20s but I looked like I was 40. Compared with Meng Jiao there was a world of difference. I was the only one in the dormitory from another province, and the others went home during the National Day holiday. However, the quietness of the falling leaves and the aftereffects of all living beings were a bit strong, and I felt it was unreal. I needed to have a good rest. I heard someone open the door in a daze. I stuck my head out and saw Meng Jiao walking in with a suitcase. He actually went back to school as well. Xinxin, what's wrong with you? Why don't you suddenly come to my house? My mother has prepared a large table of dishes for us. Why didn't you tell me earlier? The dishes would have been cold if you hadn't gone. Meng Jiao complained as he walked, and blamed me implicitly. It was their family's hongmen banquet, and anyone who ate it would be poisoned to death. Why did you come back? He took out the things in the suitcase one by one. When he heard what I said, he looked up at me with his usual sweet smile on his face. Of course he couldn't bear it. My dear Xinxin is spending the holiday alone. I stayed here specially to accompany you. I'm good to you. I lay on the bed sneering in my heart. I'm afraid being good to me is just a hint of strength in the words, and there's poison in the sugar. Meng Jiao didn't go home this time because he couldn't explain when he went back. After all, he failed to cheat Meng Jiao into giving her a bargain, and his sister-in-law would have been in trouble. At this time, Cui Ru should have found a husband's family for Meng Jiao, and was eager to marry her off so as to exchange a betrothal gift for President Meng. Where is the money? In my previous life, Meng Jiao didn't want to get married, and deliberately deceived me away. His whole family acted in front of me, and Mengzhou pretended to be gentle and considerate, coaxing me around. Meng Jiao persuaded me to drink, and Mengzhou took advantage of the situation. I felt very uncomfortable after I woke up, but I had a good impression of Mengzhou at that time so I didn't think about the bad side. I got pregnant soon after I arrived at the school. Meng Jiao persuaded me to drop out of school and marry his brother, give birth to the child and then come back to continue my studies. I was at a loss and fell into their trap unknowingly. My parents hurried over from far away after hearing the news. This place is poor and remote. Cui Ru even wanted to reduce the betrothal money on the grounds that I was pregnant. My parents said they would never agree to my marrying here. My father's hair turned a lot white because of this. Meng Jiao knelt in front of my parents and begged them for consent. In the end, I married him despite the obstruction, so the consequences in the end were also my own fault. When I was having breakfast, Meng Jiao sat next to me and said a lot of things for no reason. I didn't want. I ignored him. My eyes were fixed on the TV series being played, but Meng Jiao took out his mobile phone and stretched it in front of me, and on the screen was Mr. Meng's disgusting face. How about this? This is my brother. He's handsome, isn't he? Xinxin, why don't you be my sister-in-law, so that we can still be together after graduation? My brother has a good temper and is handsome. He shook my arm and looked at me with expectant eyes. It seemed that I couldn't finish the burger. I threw it into the trash can. I looked at the photo for a few times. This is called handsome. His tone rose, full of doubt and ridicule. He immediately raised his voice to refute me. Isn't this handsome? Lu Xinxin, don't be too picky, and continued. What does your brother do for a living? Meng Jiao hesitated this time, couldn't explain it. I clicked my tongue a few times and shook my head in dissatisfaction. Who would like such an idle person, would you? My brother is just unemployed. He can find a good job easily. There are many people who like him since he was a child. His face turned green and white, and he was still stubborn. I put on the headphones, indicating that he did not want to continue the topic. Meng Jiao failed to trick me into going home this time. He was not going to let me go, but I asked myself, I have always treated him well. Meng Jiao has very little living expenses, and he is vain. He always pretends to be rich when he speaks. Only I know the real situation of his family, so I often lend him money in daily life. However, Meng Jiao not only does not know how to be grateful, but he keeps taking advantage of my simplicity and kindness. He is also a virgin and does not understand feelings, and deceives me into the abyss. I began to distance myself from Meng Jiao. He borrowed money from me several times and I refused them all. When I don't have classes, I will go to a coffee shop in the school to work part-time and earn some money. Today I was on duty and it was very late when I came back. The dormitory door was not closed tightly, and a crack was open. Meng Jiao and the other two roommates laughed and laughed. I just wanted to push the door in when I heard my name. Xinxin has always been targeting me recently, and I obviously did nothing wrong. Hey, her temper is really bad. You said she goes out early every day. You're the one who comes home late, right? You've got a boyfriend and you want me to see him. Meng Jiao's voice sounded like he'd suffered a great injustice. You've been so good to him. How dare he do this to you? Lu Xinxin has a sour face all day long, and only you can stand him. When I went to buy coffee today, I saw him flirting with a boy. I stood at the door, listening to the people inside complaining about me. There were 4 people in the dormitory last time, and Meng Jiao and I had the best relationship. We were always inseparable, so naturally I didn't have much chance to hear him say bad things about me. Instead, he often complained about the other 2 people in front of me. These 2 roommates usually stayed at the dormitory, and we had less time to interact, but they were never very friendly to me. It turned out that the problem was with Meng Jiao. He was really two-faced. My book fell to the ground with a snap, and it was instantly quiet inside. I was about to reach out to pick it up, but a hand had already gotten there first. A girl picked up the book for me. I thanked her and remembered this girl. This is me. We were in the dormitory next door, and the relationship between us was lukewarm. She had reminded me before that Meng Jiao was talking about me behind my back, but I had a good relationship with Meng Jiao at the time, so I didn't take it to heart. I walked into the dormitory, and they were all sitting in their seats pretending nothing had happened. Xinxin, you come back so late today. Meng Jiao greeted him with a smile, but seeing my cold face, I leaned against the bed, expressionless, embarrassed that I came back at the wrong time and happened to hear you discussing me. Several people tacitly pretended to be deaf and dumb. I sat down, turned on my phone, and found the chat in which Meng Jiao had complained to me about them. I sent it to the dormitory group, and then pretended to be surprised. Oops, sorry, I sent it to the wrong person. The stool slid to the ground, making a sharp sound. The 2 roommates deliberately made a lot of noise when they packed up their things to show their anger. Meng Jiao was even more stiff and shrank his head, without saying a word. Only I clicked on the funny variety show and laughed out loud. My relationship with Luoji gradually became closer. I felt very easy to get along with him. There was no twists and turns. Luoji's emotions were all on his face. I knew what was going on at a glance. A message from Meng Jiao popped up on my phone. I'll treat you to a meal after class. After the last incident, our relationship had fallen below freezing, but Meng Jiao had been trying to ease the relationship. However, this was the first time he treated me to a meal. It looked like he was going to spend a lot of money. I specifically brought Luoji into the conversation and even ordered the most expensive food. Meng Jiao hesitated to speak, his mouth twitching, but with other people around, he had to save face until we finished our meal and returned to the dormitory. Meng Jiao finally couldn't hold it anymore. Lu Xinxin, what do you mean? You obviously know that I don't have much money, but you still order expensive food. Who are you? I won't indulge you now. I directly retorted that if you can't afford it, just say so. I don't even need this meal. You are just pretending to be rich and blaming me. Meng Jiao was so angry that his face turned red. He usually pretended to be delicate and soft, but now he was spewing shit, and his dirty words overlapped with Cui Ru's. He directly pulled my hair, and I pinched him with all my strength. Meng Jiao was in pain. He kept yelling, and finally we were pulled apart by the dormitory manager. From then on, Meng Jiao would roll his eyes when he saw me. One day when I passed behind him, I saw him transferring money. He excitedly sent a voice message and looked at me arrogantly, saying that I could make money by swiping orders. Well, who is like you who works a part-time job every day? I said, oh, and quickly covered my face with my hands, because I was afraid that I would laugh too happily and piss him off to death. In my previous life, Meng Jiao also swiped orders, but the other party turned out to be a liar. Fortunately, I had seen this kind of scam on the internet and stopped him in time when he was transferring money. Now, without my reminder, Meng Jiao's few money could not be saved. After I woke up from a nice lunch break, I saw that he looked anxious and questioned the other party with his mobile phone. He didn't go to the afternoon class either. He was still in the dormitory when I came back from dinner. Mom, just transfer some money to me. Cui Ru's voice was very loud. Even without the speakerphone, I could hear him scolding Meng Jiao all the time, and he threw all the dirty words on his daughter. In the end it ended with one stick. Sometimes I wonder how there can be someone like Cui Ru in the world. Her son is her most precious treasure, but she beats and scolds her daughter at will. She is really not worthy of being a mother. Meng Jiao was hung up on the phone and lay on the table crying. In the game group the next day, Meng Jiao called me brother in various ways with his sweet voice and asked for red envelopes. I was busy participating in the debate competition. In order to prepare well, I stayed in the library every day for nearly half a month. Once when I went to the cafeteria, I went to see Meng Jiao and found him sitting with Luoji. They were talking and laughing. I thought it was weird. After dinner I called Luoji out and asked, when did you and Meng Jiao have such a good relationship? Jiao and I are both in the dance club. Last time I sprained my foot, she accompanied me to the infirmary. We became familiar with each other after going back and forth. I think I had a misunderstanding with Meng Jiao before. She is a good person. I didn't know what to say for a moment. I just felt vaguely uneasy, but the debate competition was imminent and I didn't have time to think deeply. I just breathed a sigh of relief until my competition was over. But Luoji suddenly sent a message saying that he had a boyfriend and invited me. We went to eat together. My eyebrows were throbbing. When we arrived at the agreed address, I saw Meng Jiao first. There was a boy sitting next to him. I held my breath and looked at him for a few times. My heart was relieved. Fortunately, it was not Meng Zua. I glanced at Meng Jiao coldly, sat next to Luoji with a smile, gave her the small gift and glanced at the boy opposite. I leaned close to Luoji's ear and whispered, asking him to introduce his boyfriend. As a result, Luoji's cheeks were slightly red, and he whispered, no, hello classmate, I am Luoji's boyfriend. The familiar voice of Meng Zua exploded in my ears. I turned my head stiffly. Meng Zua was standing next to me with a smile on his face, his heart beating faster and his palms sweating. I stood up in a panic and went to the toilet. I ran to the toilet in a hurry. My whole body was cold and I was trembling slightly. The memories of my last life poured into my mind. My daughter was crying all the time, and Meng Zua covered her mouth irritably. I ran over to wave her hand away, but she grabbed my neck directly. Cry, 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 all you do is cry every day. Xinxin, why are you so useless? You can't even do that to a person. No matter how hard I tried to coax him, his hands kept exerting force and I was nearly strangled to death. The feeling of suffocation was so profound then that now I feel like someone is strangling my neck again. I leaned against the wall, took deep breaths and tried to calm down. Seeing that I hadn't come back for a long time, Luoji had come to the bathroom to find me. I wasn't feeling well, so I left first. I made up an excuse to go back to school. Meng Jiao came back very late. His face was full of smiles and he looked like he was in a very good mood. You introduced your brother to Luoji. Yes, many people like him. It's not your turn at all. How come you regretted seeing that my brother is so handsome in person? Looking at his smug face, I felt angry and blamed myself. There was no way I could ignore this matter. After class, I came to the coffee shop. I had just put on my apron when someone walked into Xinxin behind me. I turned around abruptly. Meng Zua was also wearing the work clothes of the coffee shop. He was very close to me, staring at me, which made me very uncomfortable. I thought I would never see him again in this life, but I didn't expect that this person found a job at school. It's the lingering ghost, the trouble of the guest at table 5. The stars dripped. His fingers deliberately stroked the back of my hand. I jumped away as if I had been electrocuted, and looked at Meng Zua, smiling meaningfully. I felt uneasy for the past few hours, and it seems that the part-time job in the coffee shop is impossible. I resigned from the store manager as soon as I got off work, and walked out of the store. Meng Zua was leaning against a tree smoking. And some girls passing by kept looking back at him. I didn't look at him, but he stopped me. Why did you resign? What's it to you? Seeing Mengzuo's face, I felt sick. I just didn't want to stay with him for a moment longer. Let's add a contact number. He suddenly changed his tone and took out his mobile phone shamelessly. Mengzuo was happy. Luoji ran over breathlessly and held Mengzuo's arm intimately. What are you doing? Run slowly, be careful not to fall. I want to add your classmate's contact number. If you have any problems, I can guide you in time. Look at this gentle look and this considerate care. These are all Mengzuo's methods. He can only act and weave beautiful appearance, lead you into the trap. Luoji obviously fell into the trap, looking at him with sparkling eyes just like me in the past. There are many people running on the playground. I am one of them, running happily. The earphones were ripped off. I was startled, staggered. The person took the opportunity to hug my waist. It was Mengzuo. I immediately pushed him away, dangerously distanced. Fengzuo, are you sick? I warn you, you'd better stay away from me. Xinxin, I am convinced by you. Why don't you appreciate it? The place where he touched my waist felt like ants were gnawing. I felt uncomfortable and angry all over. I wanted to take a shower quickly but felt angry, so I kicked him hard when he was not paying attention. Hitting the important part, he bent over and cried comically. Now I felt much better. Back to the dormitory downstairs. Luoji just came out. I can see that his clothes are carefully matched. Where are you going? I was immediately locked out. Mengzuo asked me out. I held his arm tightly. My mind was working fast. You can't go. The instructor is doing a surprise dormitory inspection today. I dragged him back to the dormitory, pressed him on a stool, and then sat in front of him for a long time without saying a word. Xinxin, what's wrong with you? I organized my words and spoke with difficulty. Luoji, I heard Meng Jiao say before that his brother has a bad temper and often beats him. Well, Mengzuo has a good temper. Meng Jiao said so too. Xinxin, did you remember it wrongly? I returned to the dormitory depressed and had no idea how to persuade Luoji. People who are trapped in love are like someone who is missing a thread in his brain and will not listen to others' advice. I wanted to ask for help online, but a friend request popped up. I knew it was Mengzuo by looking at the avatar. Thinking of Luoji, I gritted my teeth and clicked agree. The next second, Mengzuo called me on video and I clicked reject and switched to a voice call, warning him not to mess with Luoji. It's okay not to mess with him and you can do it for him. I'll reply to him, okay, you break up with Luoji first. Meng Jiao dresses up all day long. I heard that she has found a rich second-generation boyfriend from the art academy. That boy was the one she asked her brother to transfer over in the game group. He was very generous, as can be seen from the gifts deliberately displayed on his table. In fact, I met that boy once when I was working part-time in a coffee shop. At that time, he was sitting with several other boys, commenting casually on the girls who happened to pass by outside. He didn't look like a good guy. They kept saying words like fat and ugly, and laughed and argued about who was a good match for you and him. However, Meng Jiao and this kind of person are a good match. I deliberately avoided Mengzuo and almost stayed in the dormitory except for classes. Naturally, he couldn't see me and could only send some disgusting words on WeChat. Why do you keep pestering me? I fell in love with you at first sight in the photo sent by Meng Jiao. I don't like Luoji at all. I'm with him just to attract your attention. I took screenshots of these disgusting words and sent them to Luoji. He almost exploded. Before Mengzuo mentioned breaking up, Luoji dumped him first. I anonymously posted these pictures on the school's love confession wall, so that all the girls in the school would avoid him. Word of him spread from one person to another, and there was a lot of scolding from the audience. I even sent a separate copy and took a screenshot to the coffee shop manager, telling him in tears that I resigned because Mengzuo had put his hands on me. The manager comforted me and said he would fire Mengzuo. At the beginning, Mengzuo had been posted on the love confession wall because of his handsome looks, and Meng Jiao immediately jumped out to recognize him as her brother. Now Mengzuo was being scolded, and Meng Jiao was dragged down as well. Under the comments scolding Meng Jiao, I posted the fact that he recognized brothers everywhere in the group, and added his sweet quotes. People who knew Meng Jiao's boyfriend came after hearing the news and made fun of him, saying that the rich second generation had green grassland on his head. Within a few days, Mengzuo was no longer seen in the coffee shop. The rich second generation dumped Meng Jiao. They stood under the teaching building and quarreled, using all kinds of dirty words, so that everyone knew that it was you who did it to Lu Xinxin. Yes, Meng Jiao, he was so angry that he rolled up his sleeves and was about to rush over. I was unusually calm. If you want to hit me, go ahead. I won't fight back this time. What can you do when we go to the police station? Do you have the money to compensate? Meng Jiao's hand froze in midair. His eyes almost popped out, and finally he retracted his hand abruptly. Lu Xinxin, just wait. I thought Mengzuo should leave school and go back to his hometown after losing his job at the coffee shop. As a result, when my classmates and I went to the nearby snack street to eat, Mengzuo was sitting at the table next to us. His eyes were fixed on me like a poisonous snake locking onto its prey, which made me feel cold all over. After dinner, I hurriedly took my classmates back to school. Thinking of Meng's cold eyes that day, in order to prevent him from retaliating against me, I was very cautious when going to and from get out of class every day, and I didn't show up at school. Days passed, and except for that day when I saw Meng's, I never saw him again. I gradually relaxed my vigilance. As my senior year approached, the student union held a term change, which happened to be the president's birthday. He invited us old members to have dinner together. Meng Jiao was also there. At first, everyone was eating and chatting normally. Then slowly the boys started drinking and some girls joined them. I didn't want to drink and just wanted to have a quiet meal. Lu Xinxin, everyone was drinking, so why don't you have one? Today is the president's birthday. It would be embarrassing if you don't have one. Meng Jiao kept urging me to drink, and he definitely had no good intentions. I have a very poor alcohol tolerance, so I hardly drink. In my previous life, Meng Jiao took me to his house, and he repeatedly assured me that the wine was brewed by Cui Ru herself and was not intoxicating. As a result, I only drank a few sips and then fell on the table unconscious. Now there were several pairs of eyes staring at me. I calmly said I was sorry, I was severely allergic to alcohol. How could this be possible? This is your excuse. Okay, just remember to call 120 when the time comes. I smiled. Seeing the atmosphere was tense, the president immediately came out to smooth things over. Why is the orange juice so delicious today? Let's all drink orange juice. Others also began to agree. The atmosphere gradually turned around and everyone started talking and laughing again. Only Meng Jiao stared at me. Sparks were flying from his eyes. He left before he could eat a few bites. When I went to the toilet, I saw him leaning against the wall smoking, with a gloomy face as he puffed out smoke. In my memory, Meng Jiao doesn't smoke. After dinner, it was already dark. Everyone went back to their dormitories. Only our department's dormitory was the farthest away. There was a bamboo forest next to the way. I was a little scared. I kept feeling that someone was following me. The pace was getting faster and faster. When I walked to the corner, I was suddenly pulled into the bamboo forest. Meng's covered my face from behind and stuck to my ear. The thick smell of smoke on him made me want to retch. His voice was eerie and terrifying. Xinxin, as your husband, how could I not know that you were allergic to alcohol? There was a bang in my head and tinnitus rang endlessly. You didn't think you were the only one who was reborn. If you don't come to find me, I'll be the only one to find you, but you dare to play tricks on me. I pinched my palm, steadied my trembling body, bit his hand hard, and he shook me off in pain. Even if you are reborn, what can you do to me? You are just a useless waste. Mr. Meng rushed over, I dodged and shouted for help. He grabbed me again, pinched my neck, the familiar feeling of suffocation swept over me again. But fortunately the flashlight shone in. Is there anyone there? The security guard seemed to have discovered us. Lu Xinxin will not let you go, Mr. Meng escaped. The security guard sent me back to the dormitory. Until I lay on the bed, I was still in a daze, and I couldn't sleep well. In the dream, I curled up in the corner and was dragged out by Meng's by my hair. Cui Ru stood at the door with cold eyes saying, Son, that's enough, don't beat him too much. Otherwise there will be no one to cook for a while. I lay on the cold ground, my mouth full of blood. My stomach was kicked in the stomach by Meng's, and the pain was so severe that when I woke up I was sweating. I touched my head and found the temperature was abnormally high and my throat was sore. I slowly realized that I had a fever. A cold wind blew in from the door. It was Meng Jiao standing on the balcony and making a phone call. I could vaguely hear her voice. I put it in the doll. Then he sneaked to my desk. I quietly leaned over to see that Meng Jiao had put a miniature camera in my teddy bear doll, and went back to his bed. I am now glad that I woke up from a nightmare in the middle of the night. Otherwise, how would I know that Meng Jiao had secretly done something? When I woke up the next day, my head was no longer hot and I felt much more relaxed. I got out of bed and the first thing I did was to hold the teddy bear and question Meng Jiao. I saw what you did last night. Why did you put the camera in this doll? Hearing this, the other two roommates gathered around me and looked at Meng Jiao in shock. It was already this time again and Meng Jiao was still being stubborn. I took apart the teddy bear in front of him and turned it over left and right. What happened? Nothing, Meng Jiao sneered. Is Lu Xinxin suffering from paranoia? She is looking for trouble. My roommates left this sentence and continued to watch TV series. I was the only one standing there, confused. Was I dreaming last night? But my throat still hurt. I walked to the table and sat down. I drank a sip of water, which slightly relieved the pain. I took out the test paper. I wanted to do a few questions, but my head was getting heavier. I touched my head and found that the temperature was not high. I wanted to go back to bed and sleep, but I couldn't stand up at all, so I lay directly on the table. I heard Meng Jiao's voice in a daze. He carried me on his back. Lu Xinxin seemed to have a fever. I took her to the infirmary. Meng Jiao carried me on his back. Some classmates around asked me what was wrong. He was drunk. He walked all the way until another person took me over. I heard timidity in Meng Jiao's voice. He said, Brother, I'm a little scared. It's not a good idea to do this. Mengzua carried me on his back. What are you afraid of? Listen to me, I have a wife so you don't have to be forced by your mother to get married. If you don't do this, do you want to get married? Meng Jiao shook his head like a rattle and was carried by Mengzua into a hotel. It was obviously very shabby and the surveillance in the room was broken. When he threw me on the bed, I understood that he wanted to repeat the same trick as in his previous life. But Mengzua, how could he repeat the same mistake after being reborn? He leaned down and approached me. Mengzua, you are as disgusting as ever. I opened my eyes and they were clear. When it was almost dawn, my throat was really sore. I got up to drink water and thought of what Meng Jiao did last night. I immediately took apart the teddy bear and found that there was nothing inside. So I noticed the water cup on the table. There was a trace of powder next to it, which could not be seen without careful observation. It should be left by Meng Jiao, who was guilty. They just wanted to use the teddy bear to divert my attention. I finally drank the glass of water, but it was very little, not enough. I was knocked unconscious. Mr. Meng was obviously startled, but he grinned again in the next moment. He pulled my hair and slapped me. Even if you are sober, what can you do? Don't even think about escaping if you fall into my hands. I looked straight into his fierce eyes. I forgot to tell you that I have called the police. The police will be here soon. Don't try to lie to me. When Mengzua pulled open my coat, an alarm sounded outside and he fled. When the police rushed in, I was in tears, my clothes were messy, and there were obvious slap marks on my face. They called in the hotel surveillance, but they could only see me in the corridor. I was obviously not sober and was taken into the room by Mengzua. When I handed the hidden cup to the police, Meng Jiao was standing by and believed Mengzua's words. She thought I would not investigate. She was calm until she was taken away by the police, as if she was scared silly. This roommate drugging incident caused a sensation in the school. I was walking on the road and there were many people around. His eyes stayed on me, either gossiping or sympathizing, but I was calm. Time will smooth everything out. After Luoji learned about this, he hugged me and cried. He scolded Mengzua and Meng Jiao and thanked me for saving his life. He also felt sorry for my experience and bought a lot of snacks, asking me to turn my pain into appetite. But some people really can't be avoided just because you don't want to see them, such as Cui Ru. She was obviously younger than in her previous life, but her face was obviously much older. Most of her hair was white, and on her face she looked like a crazy woman. It was all your fault that my son was killed. You must pay for my son's life. Cui Ru had a knife hidden in her trouser pocket, but before she could take it out, she was subdued to the ground by the security guard who rushed over. Mengzua ran away from the back door of the hotel, and he ran back to his hometown overnight. The police traced the address. Cui Ru didn't want her son to be caught, so she asked him to hide in the mountains. Who knew that Mengzua rolled down the mountain and fell directly dead? When I heard the news, I couldn't help laughing. To harm others will eventually harm oneself. These words are fully reflected in Mengzua. Cui Ru's hands and feet were pressed to the ground, and she was still cursing. I watched coldly as your son harmed others and himself, and he deserved to die. Most of the students who were watching knew the whole story, and began to feel sorry for me. Mengzua deserved to die. He deserved it. Cui Ru shouted at the top of her lungs. You are not allowed to scold my son. You are not allowed to scold him. She lowered her voice and could only murmur in pain. Xiaozua. I'm graduating from my senior year and I'm about to leave this city. On the last day I went to see Meng Jiao. After he was arrested, he kept asking to see me. He was wearing a bathrobe and looked gray, but his eyes were exceptionally bright. I said Mengzua was dead, and he was very happy. It was really great. His reaction was within my expectations. After all, Mengzua's end was planned by him and me. Time back to the day when the president invited us to dinner, Meng Jiao subconsciously refuted my excuse of being allergic to alcohol, with a look of disbelief on his face. I began to have some doubts about him and covered myself with quilt. I was sure that I had never drunk in front of Meng Jiao. He couldn't be so sure. I went to talk to him and happened to see him smoking, which made me more certain of my thoughts. Sure enough, Meng Jiao was the one who was reborn, but it was later than me. Do you know how I died in my previous life? After your death, Mengzua was still idle and asked me for money all day long. I died on the day he forced me to marry a rich old man. So he was the one who told Mengzua about my rebirth so that he could give birth to me and win my heart. Since the showdown, I have cooperated with him. He hated Mengzua so much that he was willing to go to jail. The alarm was actually set off by Meng Jiao. The real police were still behind, so that Mengzua would have time to escape. I was sure that he would hide back in his hometown. The road on the mountain was the steep route I chose. After Meng Jiao was caught, he had contacted Cui Ru in advance and told her that if the police came after them, she should let Mengzua hide on that road for safety. It often rains in their hometown and the mountain roads are slippery, so accidents are likely to happen. When I was about to leave, Meng Jiao said, "You must hate me very much. I have wanted to push you into the fire pit in these 2 lives. I am very sorry. Thank you finally." "It's okay, Meng Jiao. I told Cui Ru that you killed Meng Zhua. He is not dead yet and will continue to torture you. Don't even think about having an easy life in this life. I took the postgraduate entrance examination in my hometown. In order to experience a different life, I applied for a school so far away. I didn't expect to suffer so much here. After being reborn, the people I feel most sorry for are my parents. So in this life I just want to stay with them forever. As for the daughter in the previous life, I do love her, but she is also Meng Zhua's daughter. She was not born in this life, which is the best ending." I dragged my suitcase home. The table was full of my favorite dishes. When my mother saw me at first glance, she said I was thinner. I was happy, tired, and aggrieved at that moment. My eyes were a little wet, and I walked over to give her a big hug. Adults can be towering trees outside, but they become young seedlings again when they get home. My parents kept asking me to eat more. As I ate, I couldn't stop crying. I thought about how I fell off a cliff in my previous life and how ugly I would be. I didn't know how sad my parents would be when they heard the news. When I thought of this, I wanted to slap myself a few times. What happened to Xinxin? Was she bullied outside? My mother looked at me nervously, and my father frowned, as if I had mentioned someone's name and I would repay him the next second. I burst into laughter and said that the food was delicious. I was moved to tears. After dinner, we sat on the sofa together to chat and watch TV. Although it was an ordinary thing, it was enough for our family to be warm and happy. The wind and snow outside the window were still heartwarming. The whole text of the warm spring sun is over.